the guys back. Going to finish up with a evergreen video here, basically taking a look at the college football standings, the way the committee has it set up now. Alabama sitting 1, Oregon 2, Florida State 3, Mississippi State 4. Then on the outside looking in, TCU 5, Ohio State 6, Baylor 7, and UCLA, I believe, is sitting number 8.
Okay. Alabama was what last week?
5. Weren't even in the top 4.
And now they're 1. What? No, and I'm not disagreeing with Alabama being number 1,
right?
Because I had them there anyway. Mm-hmm. But this tells you that why anybody who's taken shame on all these people on the networks who are actually putting credence into this garbage. These people haven't the slightest I can't use that word stinking idea of what they're doing. You can't go from number 5 to number 1 because you knocked off number 1. What happened to 2, 3, and 4? Did number 2 lose?
Nope. No, number 2 was actually number off.
Number 3 didn't lose.
Number 3
number
won
4,
again.
Number 4, they didn't lose. They didn't have a very good game, but they didn't lose. Oh, and by the way, they said margin of victory doesn't end. If you go to the website for the college football playoff website, their own website, they have the criteria there for how this is chosen. It's head-to-head, conference championships. If you're nothing about margin of victory, and in fact, it was specifically said, margin of victory doesn't matter. So if margin of victory doesn't matter, then how come TCU went from 4 to 5? And how come TCU's been ahead of Baylor when they lost to Baylor?
I'm telling you.
But the simple thing here is you can't go from number 5 to number 1 just because you beat the number 1. You can't go past all these other teams. How do they get past Mississippi? Who won that game? Oh, wait a minute. Mississippi won the game. The whole thing's ridiculous. To have a committee, and look, there's some sharp football people on there. There's also some who I have no idea whether they know anything about the game. You probably know a couple of whom I'm talking about. How do you not? It's too bad Adam Silver didn't put the thing together, because he probably have a couple of Las Vegas odds makers on there who actually know or have a good idea who the best teams are. The whole thing's absurd, and they're not going to get the right 4 teams in.
Well, it's going to change again. There's no doubt. The way things are happening. I mean, and they're, things that look like they should be done right. Arizona State, they get the win at home over Notre Dame. They let the Irish come back, cut it to 3, then they blow them out in the last quarter. They can't beat Oregon State. Again, they get a lead there, third quarter, can't hold it, they lose,
they're out.
Done. Right, so I mean, it's at that point now. You have some other teams now. We know TCU still has to go to Texas, where a Texas team shut down a West Virginia team that
Texas
was right there with
much
TCU.
Better football.
Right, and they have.
But how does TCU stay ahead of Baylor anyway?
Well, they won't.
I mean, if
they're telling us they won't. After the Kansas State game, if Baylor beats Kansas State at home, because TCU has that win over K-State, I'm just saying, this is what they're justifying.
Nobody will convince me otherwise in this. TCU put 80-something up 82, on Texas Tech, right. And it was margin of victory.
Yep.
They looked at it, wow, they're good, and they are good. But they lost to Baylor. You can't. Both teams have one loss, and they played each other.
Right.
And Baylor won the game. Then Baylor's got to be ahead of TCU. There's no other rationale there. You can't say, well, this team beat this team and this team that, and Baylor lost to this team. It doesn't matter. They played each other. That overrides everything else.
And they're going by the eye test on some of this stuff, too. They want to have that human factor in there, and I understand that. But Baylor, going into Norman, being down 17-3 after the first quarter and shutting them out 45-0.
Killed them.
Unbelievable.
It's a great win.
It's an outstanding
TCU beat Oklahoma by
5.
Yeah, it was a close game.
Yeah, 38-33 or
something like that.
37-33.
And again, I'm not knocking TCU because here's you know what the screw job is? Neither one of them is going to make it anyway unless they get a lot of help, because they don't have a Big 12 title game.
Right.
And Ohio State, and I have no problem with this, by the way, because Ohio State, on my power ratings right now, 3. They've moved all the way up to 3, gradually blowing. They lost a game. Okay, they had a bad game. That quarterback is so much better now than he was then. Mm-hmm. And Ohio State, they're probably going to murder Indiana this weekend. They're really good. And Braxton Miller, go play in Canada. You're not getting your job back. He's not going to be the first-string quarterback of that team next year. Sorry, you're not supposed to lose your injury, quarterback job because of injury, or your whatever, your starting role because of injury. Yeah, you are if the other guy's better. Okay.
There's the thing, because he'll graduate, so he could go anywhere he wants, like Russell Wilson. He could
Right, but he was going to, I think the redshirt thing, if I were him, I'd go ahead, turn pro, or if he can go play someplace else for a year, that's fine too.
All right, here's the thing I want to get your take on Mississippi State and Alabama real quick. Alabama.
Mississippi State should have won the game.
Okay, but when we go back to Alabama, though, they struggled, like we talked about, to beat LSU. Very fortunate to win that game. Okay.
They've been fortunate to win a bunch of games, which is why my power ratings might not be right.
The Arkansas game, Dave, they had 10 first downs. 10 first downs for the whole game. That's your number one team in all of college football against a team at that time that had lost 16 straight SEC games. They get 10 first downs, 227 total yards for the whole game. And that's the number one team.
They were up 19-0 last week.
Right.
They were lucky to win the football game.
Well,
they got dominated in the second half of that football game.
They took the foot off the gas, I think, and they should have covered that game. They should have blown them out.
Well, I had Mississippi State, so I was pretty happy with it.
Of course you were.
Listen, if the quarterback doesn't have a couple of really bad passes, I think Mississippi State comes back and wins the game. Alabama was on fumes at the end of that.
I hate to speculate here, SEC bias, right? Second and third down on that final drive. First off, Mullen's not playing to win the game. He's smart. He's thinking, you know what? I'm number one. If I lose inside a touchdown in Tuscaloosa, I'm not dropping out of the top four.
No, he's still in there.
So 4th down and 7, Bama had brought pressure on 2 and 3. Pressure, no chance for Prescott. 4th down, nobody blitzes. 3 linebackers standing. If you go look at the replay, it's a joke. They're not even in the play. Receiver gets right behind them. Easy pitch and catch. Nobody even covered the guy. Just kind of surprising. Mississippi State had no timeouts left because they used both timeouts on that drive to make sure they scored on the drive. If they think they can win the game, they're not using those 2 timeouts because they're thinking, hey, if we score quick, there's still 2 minutes to go, a minute 40. We got 2 timeouts. We're going to be able to force them to punt. Well, they never had any intention. Dan Mullen knew what he was doing.
I don't know.
And he stayed inside the top 4.
But they were still going to play at the end. They had opportunities to get closer earlier in the second half. Here's the thing, though. Again, it comes back to this margin of victory lie.
Right.
That's out there.
If TCU wins 59-10, they're still in the top 4. If they beat Kansas 59-10.
If Mississippi State ends up losing 39-0, they're not in the top 4.
No, if they lost by double digits, if they didn't get that last touchdown, I'm convinced they wouldn't be in the top 4.
I think you're probably right. So, it's still much the same problems as we had when there were 2 teams. There's just now 4 teams instead. You need to go to 16 and actually go to a complete computer system. Sorry, Condoleezza Rice doesn't get a vote, okay? And I don't know what her qualifications were. And I don't mean to be insulting to her because there's a few other people on the panel, and I don't know how they got on there either. What's their qualifications? What, they're football fans? I can go down to the local sports book and find some people who probably watch more football, have a better understanding of it, but they would have a Secretary of State. And again, I don't want that to sound like
people
I'm just,
that we hang
like
with
I'm,
would
like
never
I'm
have gone for
her.
would never have gone for 2 in the Notre Dame game.
Oh.
I mean, end of story.
So anyway, here's the good part of it. It's fun. It's fun talking about it, and we're going to at least get 4. Those are going to be 2 thrilling weeks. And
I'm a USC
the betting handle is going to be enormous.
Dave, I'm an SC fan, and we said we'd touch on UCLA. But if UCLA runs the table, if they beat SC, beat Stanford, beat Oregon.
No, they're going to beat Oregon. Yeah, obviously.
I'm just saying that all of a sudden, if someone else has 2 losses,
well, yeah,
they could have a.
They'll probably go past. This is why the Big 12 is screwed. Ohio State's going past those teams if they win out in the Big 10.
Right.
Now,
especially if they beat Wisconsin.
They're going to beat Wisconsin.
Right. If they beat Wisconsin in the championship.
If they do, they're going to get in. I think they want to get a Pac-12 team in as well. Right now it's Oregon, and Oregon, they're the best team in the conference. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean they're going to beat UCLA.
Or if USC beats UCLA and Arizona State drops one of their last 2, USC would get. USC did not play Oregon. USC actually matches up pretty well with Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon's not a lock.
When you look at SC's losses, Hail Mary to Arizona State, 7 seconds they lost in Utah, and then the game they weren't ready for against Boston College.
Yep.
I mean, USC should be 9-1 right now.
Well, they should be, but they're not.
But they're not. Right, I agree.
But they would have a chance with 2 losses to jump over a 1-loss team out of the Big 12. Big 12's got to add some teams. They got to add BYU, and because we don't have a stadium here in Las Vegas, somebody else.
Right.
They would. If we had the on-campus stadium, they'd add UNLV. Not because of UNLV's tradition in football, obviously not, but the market. It's all about dollars and cents for those who think. If you think it's about competition, no. It's all about dollars and cents, and the Las Vegas market is a very desirable market.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we don't have a facility to play in, and I'm not going down that road again because nobody cares about Las Vegas politicians.
Dave, real quick, what would your Final Four be if I gave you a vote right now? I mean, what would your four at this juncture?
Alabama. My Final Four would be Alabama, Mississippi State, Oregon, and Ohio State.
So you would have Mississippi State in?
Yeah, I still think they're one of the four best teams.
You do?
Sorry, Big 12.
Do you think they'll beat Mississippi in Oxford? Despite, I mean, I know Treadwell's out, but do you think they're going to beat Mississippi? Because I'm going to take Mississippi. I think Mississippi's going to beat Mississippi.
Well, I got to see what the number is, and where they're positioned at that point. Look, I want to see what Mississippi State does. They
play Vandy, favored by 30.
Obviously, they should beat Vanderbilt, but I want to see whether they come back from the loss and show what Louisville showed, well, if their loss to Florida State, or if they do a Notre Dame and just barely get past or lose to a team they should handle. Now, I don't think Vanderbilt can beat them under any circumstances, but what if it's a 10-point win? See, margin of victory, I'm not BSing like a committee. Margin of victory matters to me.
There's no question. I mean, TCU winning by 4, anybody that saw that said
Absolutely.
They don't belong to be in there.
Well, I'm giving them a pass because it's a bad game and they managed to get the win.
They were lucky to get the win.
Yeah, they didn't play well.
No. And that'll do it. All right, so lots of stuff still to go on. Hopefully things shake themselves out, but, we'll wait and see. Again,
Yeah, I know there's one thing.
To go still.
We won't have to worry about this come March Madness. Because if you're good enough, you get in the tournament, and that's all.
Right.
Okay? You win the games, you win the title.
There you go. Good stuff. Love doing this with Dave Cokin. We'll do this after each week college football. We'll throw out a couple videos, and we'll throw in a couple college basketball ones next week as well if we have something that jumps out at us prior to coming on the show. Again, we tape these on Wednesday, and we hope your weekend turns out well. Hope all your games turn out W's, and check out pregame.com. I think you'll like it. A lot of great guys there, and the victories and losses, they're there. It's not any BS. When we drop 4 out of 5, it's up there. It's under our record.
Oh, you saw my record from last weekend.
I actually didn't. I didn't. Never.
Last weekend.
No, you're actually
not one of my
well.
Glittering performances last weekend.
You know what? It's handicapping, and like Dave will say, if you hit 57, 58% for the year, you're going to make yourself some good money, and that's our goal. I know all of us as handicappers for pregame. We aim for 60%. If we can do that, we know we're going to have a hell of a year. So check it out. I think you'll be enjoying what you see, and plus you get free bucks that RJ throws out there for you so you can try the site. There's a lot of free coupons and stuff to get you, and so you don't have to go into your pocket too much to check out some of the cappers. But again, the records are all up there, and there's a reason that we work there. It's because it's legit. Ken Thomson, Dave Cokin. We'll talk to you next week. Pregame.tv.